Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to express some opinions and look at where we got to this point in history. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the various generations. How did we get here? The baby boomers were um, the predominant adults when I was growing up. Their service was to their country in Vietnam, but they were also their service to social justice issues, women's rights, African American rights. Quite different from the kind of social justice warriors we see today. It's very dubious to see what exactly they're fighting for. I tend to look at social justice warriors today and the millennials as being more or less people who are looking for attention and during their college years and coming up with some pretty ridiculous notions of what social justice really is. So the baby boomers were, for the most part, the true social justice warriors at times. They fixed the errors of the greatest generation, as Tom Brokaw once called, and fighting for rights and things like that. As far as family concerned, the baby boomers wanted to have family. They had kids, and they wanted their children to be like them, fairly liberal and all that. Then comes my generation, Generation X. What can we say about Generation X? Probably more than anything, Generation X represents the first me generation, where everything is, well, how is it going to affect me? Generation Xers in high school, like myself, we got jobs because we wanted a car. And we wanted a car so we could go on a date, so we could spend money and all this sort of stuff. We were fairly self-sufficient. We had to work for things, but for the most part, it was my generation was one that got a lot of things and started whining a little bit about our predicaments. Our parents tended to be more cool. I wouldn't say that personally, but a little bit more so when you compare them to the baby boomers, who were cool. They were the Woodstock generation. They wanted the kids to be cool. So Generation Xers had pretty cool parents. My generation, on the social mark, they left us with gay rights and gay marriage. That was their pivotal movement. It came just before the millennials, and so the millennials couldn't quite capture that on their own. I think that frustrates them a little bit. Of course, my generation also pioneered the internet the way it is today. Millennials, on the other hand, were kind of given that as well. For better or worse, and mostly for better, the internet age has created a tremendous opportunity for people all over the world. That is something that the Generation X really put on the map, and they left. So here comes the millennials. I have a lot of bad things to say about millennials. I'm going to be very straightforward about this. I will have something to say in the future about millennials that is actually more affirming their actions and some hope with that. But I do have some pretty and not some complimentary things to say about millennials today. As I mentioned before, they're looking for, they want to be social justice warriors, but the laws and the way our government is set up today supports a lot of what they are asking for, demanding for, social justice. It's ingrained in our laws, but they're still not enough. They demand more, and I think they really don't understand that their arguments are just so much hot air, so much rhetoric, and very little substance. They'll call Trump a bigot. They'll call anyone who's against them racist and all this. Very much a shouting type of generation. They do not listen. They do not care to accept criticism as even being something remotely that could help their cause. And criticism has always been to the receiving person a benefit. It can be, because you can refine your ideas and you can test them. Another problem with our generation today, millennials, is that they tend to be very, particularly when you look at art and culture, music, the sexual promiscuity, pervertedness seems to be going rampant, and they display this publicly, and that's something I really have a problem with. They're intolerant of pain. If you look at the opium epidemic that's going on now, yes, you can make an argument that our pharmaceutical companies are exasperating that problem, but they seem to have no tolerance for pain or any kind of suffering that might that can act upon and make things better. Usually there's a discomfort when you're doing something that is meaningful, or when justice needs to be served. There's certain sacrifices we make when we love, and we have to give of our time, our efforts towards noble things. And the millennials tend to think that this has to come easy, and they demand it. It's very authoritative kind of position. Like the Generation X's, like myself, globalism is extremely important. I don't know why they think that we should have a state in the world where everyone participates, where you don't really have strong nation states. I find that very perplexing, because there's in future videos I'll talk about this more. But it's a very dangerous argument. We're starting to see the effects of it in Europe. Actually, we've been seeing the effects the past few years, and it's really getting exacerbated when we look at open borders, lack of national identity, and very self-critical of our national identity. Then the next generation, which is coming up, this is Generation Z. Generation Z is basically my children's age. They're in middle school, high school now. They're very different. They're already showing signs of being very rebellious against the millennials. I'm sorry, millennials. And it's coming forward. They're not becoming like the conservatives of the greatest generation. They're much more, a little bit like the tradition of William Buckley, more libertarian, but they definitely see value in our nation, in our culture, and things like that. Those kinds of things are going to be important to them. The problem is that by the time they get into power, the millennials will have made most of the decisions in the world, and we could see a real mess. I'm going to describe that mess in my next video. I'm also going to say there are some good things to say about millennials, which I hope much better than my generation. So my generation was a little transition on this, mainly when it comes to climate change, and I'll address that as well too. Today is October 18th, and here I am in a t-shirt. It's 75 degrees out, and we had a little frost last night, but it's record warmth here in the northeastern part of the country, and I'm sure most of the world. Millennials find that to be more important. They also find certain other things I'm going to discuss in a future video, where I'm actually going to say nice things about the millennials. So I hope you enjoy this video, share comments with me, and I'll see you next time.